5 hundo. It's trying.
I think, Grant, let's get it. Let's take the show on the road.
You want to get it on the road? All right. You want to take it away?
All right, let's go do that. So first of all, I'm Naveen Jain. I'm founder and CEO of Viome Life Sciences. And I'm so excited today to be actually telling you about something absolutely groundbreaking product that we're launching today. And you'll be able to buy it today, in fact. I think that I'm just waiting for the signal for someone to give me a thumbs up. So I'll let you know as soon as it's ready. But with that, I want to give you a lot more details about why is it we're launching this and give you about what is it that we're doing in this product. With me, I have Dr. Grant Antoine, and I think you might know him from his previous conversations with you. Grant is obviously is a naturopath. He is part of our clinical nutrition team, and he's been really leading the effort in terms of what is it that's happening inside the human body, and what can we do about when we find things that are actually not perfect. And so with that, Grant, do you want to say a few words before I get started and tell them about why?
No, let's get into it.
All right, with that, let's go next. So first question you're going to be asking yourself is, why full body intelligence? Why did we decide to do that? And I want to just give you a little bit of background here. About 7 years ago, when I was starting Viome, there was very few people in the world were talking about gut microbiome. But there was so much science that was out there in the research that I could read, and I started to realize that your gut microbiome was key to the human health. And we decided we're going to actually find a way for people to be able to understand what is happening inside their body, and not just tell them what's happening in their gut microbiome, but also tell them what to do about it. So we actually built a product that was basically based on your gut microbiome. As we started to evolve, we realized that our gut microbiome never lives in isolation. What it does, in fact, changes our human biology. And what we were surprised to see was when you eat a food, our gut microbes actually digest that food and they release the molecules that are absorbed in the blood, and they were changing the human gene expression. Let me repeat it. They were not changing your DNA, but they were changing your RNA. That means the genes that were expressed in our body were constantly changing based on what was happening in our gut microbiome. And we said, oh my God, we have to build a product that includes both the gut microbiome and the blood to be able to look at the human gene expression. And by looking at that interaction, we'll be able to understand why people are getting sick and what we can do to actually keep them healthy. About a year ago, we started to see a lot of research that was starting to show that our digestion actually doesn't start in our stomach, it starts in our mouth and our oral microbiome. And I think many of you might be actually heard that my mom always used to tell me, Naveen, eat slowly, chew your food. And I always wondered why she said that, because it's not that, I was going to eat a big food that somehow is going to get stuck in my throat. What I realized was she must have been a scientist, because our digestion, what we're learning, it starts in our mouth. So when we chew our food, our saliva in our mouth contains trillions of microbes that are able to pre-digest our food, and that is now ready for our gut lining to be able to absorb the nutrition, to be able to pre-process the food for our gut microbes to be able to take advantage of that. And there's a lot of signaling that happens when you eat the food. If it is a sweet food, it starts to send your your oral microbes are starting to send the signal to your pancreas and saying, start releasing the insulin, something sweet is coming now, right? And the signaling is what we started to see in the oral microbiome. And as I was reading the research, it turns out that our oral microbiome is now shown to be responsible for heart diseases. So in some sense, a lot of the plaque in the arteries you're starting to see, your blood pressure is actually being linked to our oral microbiome. In fact, a lot of the things that are neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer and even the mental health or cognitive health is being now linked to oral microbiome in addition to the gut microbiome. other thing that really puzzled us was that how much impact our oral microbiome has in our own health. Just like we know about the leaky gut. Imagine what happens when there is an inflammation in our mouth. Our gum gets inflamed, and when our gum gets inflamed, guess what happens? They start to bleed. And suddenly the oral microbiome is now have a leaky gum syndrome. And when you have a leaky gum, your microbes are now going into the blood, causing the systemic inflammation in our body. Now, we in fact have seen research that shows our oral microbiome is responsible for not just the head, neck, shoulder cancer, so oral cancer, throat cancer, esophageal cancer. It actually is now even being connected to diseases such as colorectal cancer or IBD or IBS. And that as we started to see so many of the diseases are being connected to oral microbiome, gut microbiome, and our human gene expression, we thought to actually help our customers, help the people live a disease-free life, we have to build a product that takes advantage of everything that we have learned. That means we analyze now in the full body intelligence. This is the most advanced test out there in the world. You can do it at home. And when you get this test, we ask you to give us a couple of spit of your saliva, with couple of drops of your blood, and a touch of your stool. And we analyze your saliva, we analyze your blood, we analyze your stool, and then we give you a complete holistic picture of what's happening in the body. So not only we give you your biological age, we give you your immune health, we give you your cellular health, and now we're going to also include things like your oral health. And oral health consists of your dental health, your gum health, and what foods actually may be causing you bad breath. And you may be surprised, it may not be just garlic, it may be something else. We give you your cardiac health, that means your heart health, your metabolic health. These are completely brand new scores you're going to see with the full body intelligence. You're also going to see your brain health and cognitive health. And those are some of the new insights we're going to give you. And with those insights, the things that's going to come out is the recommendation that we give you for both food, what foods to eat and why, what foods to avoid and why, and your supplements. Every single ingredient in your supplements is going to be even more precise now. So when you get our supplement pack, it will tell you exactly what vitamins, minerals, herbs, food extracts, digestive enzymes, amino acids, anything that your body needs, we actually will tell you what you need. All the probiotics, prebiotics, all these things are going to come together in a precise package for you. And of course, as you know, you can order these things from us or you can buy them anywhere else you want. But when you order from us, we make the supplements for you with only the ingredients that your body needs, only in the dosage that your body needs, and we custom make every single month. So when you do a retest, we actually redo and make the supplements for you. There is no pre-made stuff. There is no pre-made capsule. Everything is like a compounding pharmacy. And a compounding pharmacy is all robotics. We know who it is for, and we only put the ingredients in that quality just for you. So with that, I think, as you know, Grant, I am just so excited because to me, we are starting to solve the human body, understanding the human body at a molecular level. And we are getting a step closer and closer to our mission. One day, we're going to live in a world where being sick is going to be truly a matter of choices we make, not a matter of bad luck. And I'm just so excited to launch this product that's going to give us better data, better understanding about the human biology, and allow every one of our customers and humanity to live a disease-free life. So with that, Grant, it's your turn.
I'll take it away. Thank you, Naveen. That's excellent background and amazing insights. It's really exciting what Viome's been able to accomplish, and it's really amazing where we're headed, right? Not just the future of Viome, but also the future of healthcare. It's very exciting. Before we dig in, I want to say I'm honored to represent all the teams working behind the scenes here at Viome. That really make the science and the technology possible. Without them, the new scores, the insights I'm going to present today would not be possible. To the systems biology team, data science, data analytic teams, bioinformatics, engineers, clinical nutrition, clinical studies teams, thank you for trusting me to represent your efforts and your achievements. What you've been able to accomplish is really nothing short of miraculous. I'm humbled and I'm truly standing on the shoulders of giants. So thank you. And let's get started. Introducing Viome's new oral health scores derived from those brand new saliva sample collections Naveen just spoke about. Next slide, please. And let's go ahead and skip to one more. Naveen just hinted on this, but I'm going to dig in a little deeper. And there's going to be a little bit of overlap. He kind of gave you the teaser, but I'm going to give you a little more depth as we go through the scores one by one. So why is oral health important, right? It really comes down to epigenetics, right? The medical community is moving away from this idea that we are our genes, right? Genes are our destiny, to this other idea that we are how our genes are expressed, right? This really underscores the importance of epigenetics and establishing and maintaining health. Our environment, our habits, our lifestyle, they lay a foundation that's either promoting or impeding health. People talk a lot about diet and nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress, but unless you're in the dental community, unless you're a dentist or a hygienist, you don't hear much about the impacts of oral health on our epigenetics and our overall physical health, right? So it's really not just about preventing cavities and having a pretty smile. It's about our oral health and the oral microbiome. The oral microbiome has measurable impacts on our whole body health. In fact, it's the oral microbiome that influences both our oral health and our whole body health. The oral cavity is the entry point of our digestive and respiratory systems, right? And just like the gut, it's an external environment, and our body's defenses are really important in keeping this environment contained. If we're successful at that, if we're unsuccessful, we see this. Sorry, I'm totally lost my track of my train of thought. If we're unsuccessful at maintaining a healthy oral environment, we start to see the effect on other body systems you probably wouldn't associate with oral health, right? Naveen touched on some of these. I'll go through them quickly. Cardiovascular system, inflammation along the gum line and translocation of bacteria from the oral cavity into circulation can trigger an excessive or inappropriate immune response, leading to chronic inflammation. Oral microorganisms found in the plaques of arteries and our blood vessels. And there's important associations with blood pressure and oral microbes that metabolize nitrates. Then there's neurocognitive associations, right? Again, we see the impact of systemic inflammation here and the activation of brain immune cells. They're called glial cells that are in the brain and very difficult to turn off and get them to stand down, that inflammatory activity being very destructive. And we see the impact of other specific oral microbiome bacteria like P. gingivalis, which has been found in brains, and actual amyloid plaques of Alzheimer's patients. Then we see associations with the digestive system, H. pylori colonization of the oral cavity, really seeds infections of the stomach and causes this refractory and relapse infections that makes H. pylori so difficult to treat. We see associations with the respiratory system, pneumonia. The list goes on and on. So it just makes sense as we expand beyond the gut microbiome to move to the oral microbiome, really to leverage it and establishing health for you. Next slide, please. So our first new oral health score is breath odor. It's not just a vanity score, right? Bad breath can actually be an indicator of underlying health conditions or oral microbiome dysbiosis. The bacteria in our mouth can metabolize the foods we eat and create these volatile organic compounds that are dispersed into the air and create bad breath, right? With the new breath odor score, we started with volatile compounds created from sulfur and polyamine byproducts. These compounds have been shown to contribute the most to bad breath. Most people know to avoid things like garlic and onions, but if you're concerned about your breath, you want to avoid those things, right? Commonly, but the activity of your microbiome can actually determine how long the effects of those common foods might have, as well as the effects of other foods might have on your breath. So if you're going on that first date, you're concerned about your breath, you might not need to worry about the garlic actually, as much as you might need to worry about foods like tofu, grapefruit, or mushrooms. Depending on the pathway activity of your oral microbiome, these foods might have a larger impact on your breath than those common knowledge foods. Other foods like certain meats, shellfish, watermelon might be major contributors to your breath odor score. And the good news is there are steps you can take to reduce the impacts of these foods. Not just by avoiding the foods, but introducing other foods that can actually decrease the odor creating activity, right? And I don't mean eating a Tic Tac or taking a breath mint to mask the smell. I mean using actual food constituents like polyphenols that can manipulate the actual pathway activity and the production of these volatile compounds and treat the underlying cause of the bad breath at the source. Right? So you might see recommendations to increase foods like green tea, apples, spinach, depending on your score activity. You might see other foods like clove, cardamom, or turmeric being recommended. But again, it all depends on your microbiome and your scores. Next slide, please. So another new oral health subscore is our dental health score. The oral microbiome has a significant impact on health and integrity of our teeth. Again, this isn't just about the social aspects of losing teeth or having a pretty smile, but the real downstream health implications. For example, there's multiple meta-analyses that have associated tooth loss with increased risk for cognitive impairment and dementia. There's even a dose-response relationship observed in which the more teeth we lose, the more cognitive impairment we experience. The cause of these associations are still being debated, but it's known that the addition of dentures or prosthetics decreases the effects. But Viome, we're not really interested in that, right? We're more interested in prevention, preventing the tooth decay, preventing the tooth loss from ever occurring. Our new dental health score sorry, I lost my place there. Assesses your oral microbiome for the balance of microbes known to increase or decrease your risk for cavities. And more importantly, assess the activity of your microbes in protecting or damaging your teeth. So dental health, really, it's all about the integrity of the tooth enamel. We're constantly making deposits or withdrawals from the enamel. Your dental health score determines the overall balance of these activities. And if either the microbes or their activity indicate a pro-activity environment, a pro-cavity environment, Viome will provide recommendations to reestablish anti-cavity balance. Brushing and flossing, they're still going to be important to remove biofilm, but following your Viome recommendations will actually influence the activity of your oral microbiome to produce less biofilm, to produce less acid that damages the enamel, and to rebalance the relative abundance of your anti-cavity microbes. The amazing thing is we can do all of this through nutritional recommendations, not by recommending just another antimicrobial mouthwash. Remember, antiseptic mouthwashes, they kill both the good and the bad bacteria, and they should really be used judiciously, right? Just like an antibiotic should. Instead, in your recommendations, you might see foods high in nitrates that rebalance oral pH, foods rich in polyphenols that support the growth of protective microbes and discourage the growth of negative bacteria like Streptococcus mutans. And recommendations you can't find anywhere else because no one else is measuring the cavity promoting pathway activity that Viome is. Next slide. Then we have the gum health score. Gum health is foundational to oral health and physical health. Our gums are important in supporting and really sealing our teeth to protect them from those pro-cavity microbes I just mentioned. They provide a barrier between the outside world and our body's internal environment. In fact, leaky gums are just as detrimental as the leaky gut and perpetuates that chronic low-grade inflammation that's implicated in so many chronic and autoimmune diseases. As important as gums are, they're susceptible. They're susceptible to damage and inflammation. Over time, if this damage accumulates, we actually lose gum tissue that compromises that barrier function. And perhaps really the most alarming thing is that as we lose gum tissue, it does not grow back. Once we lose it, it's gone. So prevention is really key. Gum disease can start as a simple gingivitis with some mild swelling or bleeding. It's not uncommon. Or it can progress to full-blown periodontal disease where the loss of tissue is so great that the teeth and the underlying jawbone become damaged. Amazingly, by assessing the oral microbiome, we can detect the earliest indications that damage or inflammation is occurring to your gums. So the gums, just like the gut lining, are covered with this protective mucus layer, this mucus membrane layer that serves as the initial barrier to the outside world. When that barrier is intact, when it's strong, it's very difficult for microbes to come in contact with the gum tissue. It turns out that the microbes can actually feed on the mucins that make up this mucous membrane, and they can degrade it. And once they're able to break through this barrier, that's when we see an acceleration of damage and inflammation to the gums, which we can also measure, right? The gum health score assesses the level of mucin degrading activity as well as pro-inflammatory activity that perpetuates gum tissue damage. If there's high mucin degradation, we can actually discourage this activity by providing your microbes with substrates that replace the mucin from being used as an energy source. So you might see foods like celery, mushrooms, seaweed being recommended to provide these substrates. You might see recommendations meant to provide nutrients that restore the mucin layer and support the cross-linking of these mucins. That it's really cross-linking that strengthens this barrier. And then if your inflammatory activity is high, you'll likely see anti-inflammatory recommendations as well. Remember, inflammation is enemy number one. It's destructive. It turns on genes that take us down that path of chronic disease. Next slide, please. So oral health is just one of our new health scores. Up next, we have our new brain and cognitive health scores. Next slide. I don't think I need to spend too much time highlighting the importance of the brain or cognitive function. If you've ever had a family member suffer from a traumatic brain injury, stroke, Alzheimer's, or dementia, you know firsthand how devastating the loss of neurological function can be. The brain holds our memories, our emotions, our critical thinking, our personality. It's also the master coordinator of all our body systems, which are constantly adapting and responding to the world around us. I think a subject that many people are much less familiar with is the concept of the gut-brain axis, which is the two-way link between the gastrointestinal tract and the brain, right? There's this major physical connection via the vagus nerve, which directly connects the brain to the gut. The vagus nerve has neurons that run from the brain to the gut and neurons that run from the gut to the brain, okay? And there's actually more neurons that run from the gut to the brain, meaning there's more information being sent to the brain rather than from the brain, right? Then there's the enteric nervous system, all the collection of nerves that surround our GI tract. Remember, it's an external environment inside the gut. So there's a lot of immune surveillance and neurological surveillance to control that environment and respond quickly. Many call this the second brain. There's so many neurons actually that there's more than in the spinal cord. There's more than the peripheral nervous system that control muscles, sensory perception, and more. And outside of the physical connections, there's also the indirect connections that are just as important. There's the circulating hormones, there's specialized endocrine cells that line our gut that directly communicate with the microbiome and release signaling hormones to the brain that control hunger, the feeling of fullness, digestive enzyme release, and more. Then there's the microbial metabolites, right? Molecules produced by the microbes, generally through the metabolism of nutrients in our diet. These can enter circulation and find their way to the brain, but can also directly influence signaling through that enteric nervous system and that vagus nerve I mentioned. The metabolites can have a variety of effects, even on neurotransmitter production, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And then there's immune regulation and communication. The gut has a very strong influence on immune signaling, in many ways sets the tone of the immune system. By doing so, it directly influences neuroinflammation, which is implicated in mood disorders like depression, neurodegenerative disorders like dementia, Alzheimer's, and neuroinflammation can be increased or decreased by the gut microbiome, right? So dysbiosis and altered gut microbiota have been shown to increase neuroinflammation, and these findings have been confirmed in clinical studies. So there's a strong connection between the gut and the brain with multiple channels of communication, and they involve multiple hormonal, immune, and metabolic pathways. But how do we leverage the gut-brain axis to promote health? That's where the scores come in. Next slide. Our new neurotransmitter production score is our first attempt at quantifying the effect the gut microbiome has on the production of neurotransmitters like GABA and serotonin. Both of these neurotransmitters play important roles in the management of mood and neuronal signaling, right? GABA is our principal inhibitory neurotransmitter, important in reducing stress and anxiety, pain signaling, and sleep quality. Microbial production of GABA has been associated with decreased levels of depression and anxiety, which is thought to occur through that vagal nerve signaling I mentioned earlier. And when GABA production is low, we see associations with insomnia, mood, and psychiatric disorders. Serotonin is also very important. It's known as the happy hormone because of its influence on our mood, but it's also very important for things like memory and temperature regulation, breathing, sexuality, even digestion. And the microbiome also directly influences the serotonin production through its impact on tryptophan metabolism. So we have a limited ability to absorb amino acids like tryptophan, and microbes can impact the amount available for our cells to produce serotonin. Now, with the score, we can actually measure this activity related to the production of the neurotransmitters and provide recommendations to support any suboptimal activity we detect. What's interesting is when it comes to serotonin, your score indicates suboptimal activity. We can improve this not only by supplying more amino acid precursors like tryptophan, but if needed, we can also increase the uptake and the production of serotonin and its metabolites by the cells lining our gut. Short chain fatty acids like butyrate support this activity, so we can also provide butyrate through supplementation or in combination with your butyrate production pathway scores from your gut health testing, really optimize your microbiome's production of butyrate, which in turn optimizes your serotonin production. There's not another lab or a company out there that can provide these insights. It's really amazing what we're able to do. Next slide, please. So if you've ever had a difficult time concentrating or staying focused, then you recognize the importance of cognitive health. Our new cognitive health score is an important step towards understanding how the gut microbiome impacts our ability to process information and recall memories and think clearly and critically. Metabolites produced by microbes in the gut can have negative effects on cognition. For example, the production and accumulation of ammonia or lactic acid can contribute to brain fog. Ammonia specifically can cross the blood-brain barrier and interfere with neurotransmitter production and signaling. If we see ammonia production activity is high, the first thing we want to do is remove foods that contribute the most to those pathways. Foods commonly considered healthy, things like beets and leafy greens that are rich in nitrates might actually be contributing to your brain fog through these mechanisms. And we can also then recommend superfoods and supplements like citrus flavonoids or even targeted probiotics that downregulate that ammonia production. You might also see recommendations to increase the conversion of lactic acid to beneficial short chain fatty acids like that butyrate I mentioned. So foods and supplements rich in oligosaccharide prebiotics would be important to incorporate into your diet. Next slide. The last brain and cognitive health score is our new anxiety and stress response score. There's no getting away from stress. Modern life, it's fast-paced, it's stressful, and while we all have our own unique experiences, the same downstream implications of increased stress and anxiety are all the same. I think most people, they only consider stress and anxiety to be a mental and emotional issue, right? But in fact, these are true physical health issues, and they have real metabolic, immune, and hormonal impacts that again have that epigenetic effect and influence how our genes are expressed. By assessing your human gene expression, we can detect features associated with chronic stress and anxiety. And although we can't completely remove stress from our lives, we can control how we respond to our stressors and the impact they have on our health and our biology. This score considers the pathway activity related to cortisol metabolism and signaling, DNA methylation, circadian rhythm, cell cycle signaling, and more. If it's determined that you have a not optimal anxiety and stress response score, you might see recommendations to avoid foods like grapefruit or supplements like citrus flavonoids, which can actually increase cortisol levels. You might even see my personal favorite superfood recommendation for cocoa, for chocolate, but not just any type of chocolate. It turns out the high polyphenol dark chocolate has beneficial effects on cortisol metabolism. Other recommendations you might see include herbal adaptogens to support healthy mood and stress resilience, or anti-inflammatory recommendations to address those downstream implications I was talking about. And again, because these are just as much a physical issue as they are a mental health phenomenon. Next slide. Great. Moving on to our health and metabolic scores. We're making good time. I was afraid.
Which I went over with you.
So the importance of cardiovascular health. You may or may not be familiar with Viome's mission. I think Naveen hinted on it, but really the mission is to digitize and decode and decipher the human biology for the detection, prevention, and treatment of chronic diseases and cancer, right? But our goal is truly to make illness optional. If we're going to be successful, if we're going to be able to understand the impact our environment and the microbiomes have on our cellular biology and gene expression, we, especially as it relates to the development of chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer in industrialized nations. And again, if we're going to be successful, we have to have an impact in this area. Our new heart and metabolic health score, it's a big step towards this goal and provides both microbiome and cellular health insights, targeting cardiovascular health. And while cholesterol metabolism is important for cardiovascular health, it's important to understand that it's not the only factor at play here. It's important to address anything that increases oxidative stress and damage to the blood vessels in the cardiovascular system. And it turns out your microbiome can have significant impact on the health of your heart and blood vessels. And our new microbiome heart health score is specifically designed to address just that. Next slide. In the images of this slide here, you can see depictions of the internal environments of a blood vessel and of the gut, the blood vessel being on the top. And see, in that blood vessel, you might see little variations in texture of the lining along the blood vessel, right? But it's relatively barren compared to the environment in the gut, which it's, the gut's designed to withstand both the harsh digestive environment that's full of, strong acids, bile salts, enzymes, as well as all the trillions of microbes and their metabolites. The lining of both these environments is only 1 cell thick, but the cells in the gut are larger. They have specialized membranes and organelles to protect themselves. The blood vessels don't. And so this epithelial lining of our blood vessels, they're not designed to withstand the harsh environment. And in fact, they're very susceptible to oxidative stressors, and which cause cellular damage and inflammation. And that in turn leads to vascular damage. And then we see plaque development. And then that's what leads us towards heart disease. Metabolites produced by the microbiome can actually cross over into circulation and be a source of this oxidative stress. In fact, some of the metabolites like TMA and TMAO are independent risk factors for heart disease. Our new microbiome heart score, sorry, I got the slide messed up on me. It assesses the activity related to the production of those metabolites in the gut and provides actionable insights to decrease their production and impact on your cardiovascular health. For example, your gut could be a significant producer of metabolites called uremic toxins, things like P-cresol and others, which stimulate the production of free radicals and inflammatory cytokines in the lining of your blood vessels. Now, for cardiovascular health, it's common knowledge to avoid red meat, right? But there are other foods considered to be heart healthy that can actually contribute to the production of these toxins that cause the oxidative stress. So foods like tuna, halibut, and tofu even, which are really rich sources of tryptophan and tyrosine, these amino acids that are substrates for the production of these uremic toxins, they can be a source of oxidative stress. So if your microbiome heart score, if you might see it's suboptimal, recommendations to avoid these foods. Also pull these amino acids out of your supplement recommendations, so we're not feeding those to you, and likely provide you with prebiotics and probiotics known to reduce the production of those toxins. And it's one more example of how your unique microbiome influences the impact, and how even like healthy foods can have a negative impact on your health. Next slide, please. Our next score is the new kidney heart health score. The renal and cardiovascular systems are really intimately connected, and each has a tremendous impact on the other. So we set out to develop a score that assesses gene expression features that link these vital organs and impacts your cardiovascular and metabolic health. I'd like to touch on a little bit of renal physiology for a bit, because I think it underscores the importance of the kidneys in maintaining heart health. The kidney's primary function is to filter waste products out of the blood. In order to do this, it's got to maintain a very specific gradient in blood pressure and solute concentrations that help move things like electrolytes, water, and those waste products across the membranes, where it can be pushed into the bladder to form urine, right? To maintain these gradients, the kidneys have to have specialized cells that measure things like blood pressure. And if blood pressure gets too low, the kidneys will release hormonal signals that tell the body to adjust accordingly. The primary mechanism for this is the renin-angiotensin system, which the kidneys release an enzyme that activates that renin and sets off a cascade of reactions that increase blood pressure. This isn't the only system that contributes to blood pressure, but it is a first-line target for medications intended to lower blood pressure. And it also happens to be a system that's strongly influenced by diet. The kidney heart health score here assesses gene expression related to the activity of the renin-angiotensin system, as well as other features like homocysteine metabolism that have a direct impact on cardiovascular health. Homocysteine, it's a normal byproduct of metabolism. It's an amino acid, but if it's not appropriately recycled, it can become another independent risk factor for heart disease. So it's important to get that cleared out. If your kidney heart health, your score is not optimal, you might see recommendations targeting renin activity. For example, lignans and sesame seeds have been shown to lower that renin activity and support healthy blood pressure. You might also see recommendations for leafy greens that are high in electrolytes like potassium. Quick side note, having a not optimal score doesn't necessarily mean you have high blood pressure. And we're definitely not diagnosing high blood pressure, but in line with our early detection and prevention philosophy, this score is simply identifying factors that can contribute to the development of high blood pressure. And then Viome provides the actual insights to course correct, right? To correct this activity and hopefully keep you from ever going down that path towards hypertension. In the future, we also hope to include insights from your oral microbiome. Naveen touched on this, on how the microbes have a impact on your blood pressure, or using those antiseptic mouthwashes can kill off those bacteria and actually raise your blood pressure. It's exciting stuff coming down the road. But I think the bottom line is like high blood pressure, it's really detrimental to our vascular health, which really leads us to our final score for the day. Next slide, please. Our vascular health score. I've already spoken a little bit about how sensitive our blood vessels are to oxidative stress and how blood pressure can damage those blood vessels. These insults, they contribute to the pathogenesis of heart disease because they set the stage for the cholesterol particles that are floating through the circulation to make their way into the blood vessel lining. And then from there, with a little help from our immune cells, it produces those plaques, the plaques that cause the blockages that produce the heart attacks and the strokes that can be so detrimental. Earlier, I mentioned that heart health isn't just about cholesterol, but that doesn't mean it's not important. In fact, it's very important, and it's even if it's just one piece of the puzzle. Healthy cholesterol metabolism it's really about the movement of cholesterol to and from our peripheral cells, and the liver's ability to efficiently facilitate that clearance of the cholesterol from circulation. The new vascular health score assesses the gene expression activity related to the metabolism of LDL cholesterol. It considers the uptake and regulation of oxidized LDL, the status of cholesterol receptors, as well as the immune signaling associated with high LDL levels. But the vascular score, it doesn't stop there. And for the first time ever, we've developed a score that looks and assesses the downstream effects of a vitamin, vitamin D. Nutrient testing can be challenging, and the results don't always necessarily reflect an individual's true nutritional status, right? In fact, a lot of tests often, they only reflect the nutrients provided by your last meal, depending on the test. At Viome, we're more interested in evaluating the activity of nutrients and whether or not your cells and tissues perceive sufficient levels of specific nutrients to perform their functional activities. And the vascular health score assesses the vitamin D activity as it relates to vascular function. So vitamin D, it plays an important role in maintaining healthy blood pressure, blood vessel repair, the immune response, and blood vessel compliance, right? This ability of our blood vessels to be supple and flexible as opposed to stiff and rigid, right? We want nice, flexible, compliant blood vessels that can adapt to physiological demands. If your vascular health score is not optimal, you can expect to see diet and supplement recommendations targeting cholesterol absorption, LDL cholesterol receptor activity, and cholesterol clearance, as well as recommendations to optimize that vitamin D activity as it relates to your vascular health. Next slide. Great. That was our last score. You made it. You made it through. Thanks for hanging in there with us. I know that was a lot of information. It was dense, but a lot of great insights we're able to provide.
So Grant, this is amazing. I think you did a great job of giving all the stuff here. And I think what people are seeing here is a new app that is going to be launched today. So by, I would say 5 o'clock Pacific time, if not sooner, you should be seeing a brand new app. This app actually, even for our existing users, the app is going to be updated. It is so much easier to use, so much more information, and it actually allows you to see the information in the way you want to see them, right? So it is this, I mean, this is, I think, the third version of our app, and we are super, super excited about. I think you're going to love this app. And if you don't love it, let us know what we can change for the next time so we can make it better. Now, and everyone, whether you did a gut intelligence test, health intelligence test, or full body intelligence test, you will see the same app. Now, there are a couple of questions here that I think are common here. I just was going to answer them for everyone who is on the call. A lot of people are telling us that they just got the health intelligence kit, or they send their health intelligence kit samples and wish they could just add saliva to it and get the full body intelligence. Unfortunately, it can't be done. And the reason it can't be done is because we have to look at all the samples simultaneously at the same time so we can understand the interaction between what was happening in saliva, how it was impacting your gut microbiome, and how that was impacting your human gene expression. So you can't have the blood and stool samples from 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago and add saliva to it. It just would not give us the correct information. That means you are not going to get the correct information. So all I can say is, thank you, but please do retest with a full body intelligence, and all the scores will get carried over from health intelligence to full body intelligence, and you'll be able to see the benefit of the full body intelligence when you do the retest. If you just purchase the kit, and I'm not supposed to probably even mention that, I'm going to probably get in trouble. If you just bought the health intelligence kit, there are a couple of people asking, oh my God, can I just get a full body intelligence? And I honestly, I want to say yes to you, and I just don't know how. So I'm going to go talk to our customer service team and see if I can make that happen for you if you have not sent your sample back. But please don't kill me. I know somebody's going to say, Naveen, don't ever say that. But here you are. I feel for you, because if I was a user who had just bought a product and so they launched a brand new product the same day, I would feel, oh my God, can I just upgrade? So the answer is, I would like to make that happen. And I'm going to talk to our customer service team to see if they can actually have you just pay the difference between what you paid for the health intelligence kit versus the full body intelligence, and pay the upgrade fee, and we'll switch over the health intelligence to full body intelligence. I don't know how it's going to work, but we'll try to make it happen. Now, do we have, if we have nothing else, I was going to also give you one more thing for you. Since all of you joined here to listen to why we are so excited about full body intelligence, I want to give you something back for the time you spent with us. So if you go to viome.com or viome.com/full body intelligence, viome.com/full body intelligence, you'll give you all the information about full body intelligence, or you can just go to viome.com and use the discount code webinar.
Sorry, Naveen, can we show the next slide, please?
Oh, next one.
There
you go. And you get $70 off. And that is our way to thank you for joining us, for giving us your time. And please go ahead and get this for your friends and family, even though this code is for you. But if you want to use it for your friends and family, please go ahead and buy it for them as well. Share it with the people that you really love. Don't post it on social, because they'll get me in trouble again, just as you know. I think they're going to ban me from coming to this webinar. But you can go ahead and share it with the friends and family, but please don't post it on social media and give it to everyone. It is only for you, and it's only for your friends and family. So please use it wisely, so that at least we don't lose way too much money on this test. As you know, every single test we do, I'm not sure you guys know or not, we sell them at cost. We really try to be try to reduce the cost to be actually our cost. Most of you may or may not remember when we launched the company, our gut intelligence test that was just a stool test alone was, I think it started at $499, then went down to $399 and $299, and now you can buy it for $159. Or I think sometime even $149. I've seen the price as low as $129. And I think our cost on that is about $150, right? In this one, our cost is about $379. And we're selling it to you for $399. And if you get a discount, you get it for $329. So we do lose money at $70 off. But you know what? This is our way of saying thank you to you. This is our way of learning more about what's making people sick. And also, it's personal mission for me. Having lost my own dad to cancer, it was a mission for me. I wanted to solve this problem. Watching my loved ones suffer through chronic diseases, this is something I'm dedicated to solving. And if that means we invest in our business and until we find the solution to every problem, we're going to continue doing it. So I want to thank you for being a part of our journey. Thank you for joining our community. Without you, our mission cannot be accomplished. You are part of what makes us click. Every day when we hear from people that their lives have changed, I hear from people that no longer have acne or eczema. I hear from people who are telling us they no longer have things like diabetes or depression or anxiety. And people are telling us they don't have Hashimoto disease, they don't have autoimmune disease. People tell us every day they sleep better, they have more energy, they have no brain fog. Those are the things that keeps us going. So please, if you have a great, happy story, please share with us. Let us know how we have changed your life, because every time we read it, it actually gives us another reason to wake up at 4 a.m. and continue to do what we do every single day. Your stories make us come alive. It is a hard job. I work 16-hour days, 7 days a week, every single day. And because we believe this is a mission worth doing. This is a thing that's something I want to dedicate my life to solving. So all I can say is thank you for helping us get there, because without you, we couldn't do it. So with that, Grant, you get the last words.
Oh, just full of gratitude and thanks for joining us. Thanks for being a part of our journey and allowing us to be partners in your health journey to a fruitful and healthful relationship moving forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.